You walk up to the ATM, punch in your PIN, and the machine whirs to life. Out comes a stack of crisp bills marked with 2024 on them. At first glance, these new bills might just seem like a simple update or routine part of currency management. But when new money enters circulation, it's more than just fresh paper. It signals underlying economic forces at play, ones that impact everything from inflation to the overall money supply in an economy. This blog will explore the significance of new money entering circulation, what M2 is, and the broader implications of fresh currency in our wallets. Why new currency is introduced. The U.S. Treasury and Federal Reserve routinely introduce new currency into circulation for several reasons. First and foremost, physical currency deteriorates. Dollar bills, especially smaller denominations like $1 or $5, are used frequently and wear out. So, the most obvious reason for printing new money is simply to replace worn-out bills with fresh ones. But there's another aspect. New currency designs can reflect efforts to prevent counterfeiting, update security features, or celebrate historical figures and events. For example, over the years, the designs of U.S. currency have been updated with new holograms, watermarks, and color-shifting inks to make counterfeiting more difficult. Yet the introduction of new bills also ties into the broader concept of money supply, especially what's known as M2. New bills aren't just about replacing old ones. They contribute to the total amount of money in the economy. Understanding M2, the money supply. The term M2 refers to a measure of the money supply that includes cash, checking deposits, and easily convertible near money. It's broader than M1, which only includes physical money and checking accounts. M2 also encompasses savings deposits, money market mutual funds, and other near-cash items. When new bills are introduced, they become part of the M1 category, which is cash in circulation. But if that cash is deposited into a savings account, it becomes part of M2. The significance of M2 is that it gives a more comprehensive picture of the amount of liquidity available in the economy, both for consumers to spend and for businesses to borrow and invest. Expanding the money supply can have significant effects on the economy. When the Federal Reserve increases the amount of money in circulation, whether by printing new currency or engaging in monetary policies like quantitative easing, it can lead to inflation if the growth of the money supply outpaces the production of goods and services. More money chasing the same amount of goods leads to price increases. What happens when you see new bills? When you pull out a fresh 2024 bill, it can indicate that the Federal Reserve is continuing its routine currency replacement, but it could also reflect more substantial shifts in monetary policy. The Federal Reserve has the ability to adjust the money supply in several ways, including printing new money, buying government bonds, or adjusting interest rates. These actions influence inflation, consumer spending, and overall economic stability. Here's why it matters. If new money is flooding into circulation without corresponding economic growth, inflation can rise. This has been seen historically in countries where the central bank prints excessive amounts of money, leading to hyperinflation. While the U.S. has managed to avoid extreme cases of inflation, the growing M2 supply can still signal potential price increases down the road. In the post-2008 financial crisis era and during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw massive increases in the M2 supply as the Federal Reserve took steps to inject liquidity into the economy. This helped to avert a more severe economic crisis, but as more dollars entered circulation, inflation inevitably followed. How does the Federal Reserve control the money supply? Well, the Federal Reserve manages the money supply by adjusting interest rates, buying or selling government bonds, and setting reserve requirements for banks. One of the most direct ways it affects the money supply is through open market operations, buying and selling government securities. When the Fed buys securities, it adds money to the economy, increasing M2. Conversely, when it sells securities, it removes money from circulation, contracting M2. Quantitative easing, or QE, is another method by which the Federal Reserve has increased the money supply. During times of economic crisis, the Fed purchases large amounts of financial assets to provide liquidity and keep interest rates low. QE was heavily used during the Great Recession and again in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. By controlling the money supply, the Fed aims to balance economic growth with price stability. If too much money is printed, inflation can spike, reducing the purchasing power of each dollar. On the other hand, if too little money is in circulation, the economy can slow down, leading to unemployment and decreased consumer spending. The impact of new money on everyday life. So, what does this mean for you when you hold that new 2024 bill? On a day-to-day level, most people won't notice the immediate effects of new currency entering circulation. However, over time, as more money is printed and the M2 supply grows, inflationary pressures could start to mount. This can lead to higher prices for goods and services, from groceries to rent, eroding the value of your money. For investors, an expanding M2 supply can affect everything from interest rates on savings accounts to the stock market. When the money supply is increased and interest rates are kept low, it can fuel stock market gains as investors seek higher returns in equities. However, it can also make bonds less attractive, as their yields decrease in a low interest rate environment. Historical context. What happens when too much money is printed? Throughout history, there have been numerous examples of what happens when too much money is printed without corresponding economic growth. Perhaps the most infamous case is the hyperinflation in Weimar Germany during the 1920s. The government printed enormous amounts of money to pay off war debts, which led to skyrocketing inflation. At its peak, prices doubled every few days, and the currency became virtually worthless. More recently, Venezuela experienced hyperinflation after years of government mismanagement and excessive money printing. The country's inflation rate reached over 1,000,000%, and its currency lost nearly all its value. These extreme cases demonstrate the dangers of uncontrolled money supply growth. While the US is far from such extreme cases, understanding the link between new currency, the M2 supply, and inflation is critical. It shows why the Federal Reserve's actions in managing the money supply are so important for maintaining economic stability. Why the introduction of new bills matters. In conclusion, when you see new bills entering circulation, it signals more than just a replacement of old currency. It's a sign of how the Federal Reserve manages the money supply and, by extension, the broader economy. While fresh currency itself may not immediately cause inflation, its role in expanding the money supply and influencing economic conditions can have significant long-term effects. As we move into an era of increased economic uncertainty, understanding these mechanisms is crucial. Whether it's the new bills in your wallet or the broader M2 supply, the relationship between money and the economy is complex and worth keeping an eye on. Closing thoughts. The next time you withdraw a crisp new bill, remember that it's more than just fresh currency. It's part of a vast, interconnected system that affects everything from the price of your groceries to the value of your investments. By staying informed about the money supply, inflation, and Federal Reserve policies, you can better understand the forces shaping the economy and your financial future. If you liked this video, hit that subscribe and like button. Make the background music inspiring.